Hi, Anuradha. Thank you so much for joining us for a very special conversation, which of course is part of Ibarat, a magazine by Baatein. You are, of course, an icon and an inspiration to a lot of people, including me. And often I already told you how glad I am to have you talk to me, of course, though virtually. I would have loved to do this over a cup of coffee, but quarantine, unfortunately. So before we go further and I start digging questions and start prodding you to tell us about how you've explored productivity during quarantine, would you like to introduce yourself, whatever bit you would like to share with us, what you do, of course, apart from already what people know as well?
Sure, Chhaya. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's been great knowing you all along, and it's definitely a pleasure being on this show today. Uh, so yeah, I would love. I mean, happy to introduce myself. You did mention I have to be a little bit quirky for your young audience, so I'll try. I just turned 40, so I'll try to be as quirky as I can. So yeah, I think the way I would just, in a nutshell, to try and describe myself is a person is a person who grew up in Bangalore, very true blue blood, whatever Bangalorean, did not want to move out of the city for any reason, even all this pollution that's killing me now, and have been in love with the city all throughout. And again, like a true Bangalorean, and I went on to do my to study engineering after my 12th standard. I am a gold medalist in civil engineering, but then I switched careers and moved on to IT for a while. Came back to some of my civil engineering roots. Worked in the real estate and construction fields for some time. Moved on to doing my graduating from Indian School of Business in 2007, and then chucked it all the prospects of a lucrative career, all the hopes and dreams that my parents had for me, and went down the path of for following my dreams. So back in 2008, along with my husband Dimant, I started the Better India, which was essentially a platform to feature change makers, to inspire people and turn that inspiration into action. So the idea was, how do we create a large enough, a business for good? How do you create an enterprise that enables and empowers people to have the right information, tools, resources, and awareness to go out and make a difference in their own right? So that's the essence of, that's how we started something called the Better India back in 2008. It was launched as a small blog where we would go out over weekends and in the evenings, go out and cover stories in Bangalore along with our day jobs. And as it grew, took shape, as it grew in audience, and started reaching out to more and more people beyond our friends and family, we started getting so much interest and so much impact happening as a result of the stories that we shared, that soon it became pretty obvious to us that this will have to be a full-time commitment from our side, to really make this happen, to really see that impact, taking shape and becoming the large proposition that we see today. And so I quit my job back in 2013, started working on this full time. Today in 2020, we reach out to over 60 million people with the Better India. We do a lot of crowdfunding and other impact campaigns that we take up in house. We have also launched a consumer products section, which is an extension of our ideology around sustainability and impact. These are completely non-toxic and eco-friendly home cleaners that we've launched, which help you make a conscious decision towards leading a more sustainable lifestyle. And that range is called the Better Home, and this is where I am today.
So inspiring. I mean, it's just such a journey that you've mapped, and I mean, everybody who's listening to this or is going to be watching this very soon, I mean, it's just so much to learn from this journey as well. Which brings me to my next question. I would like you to sort of think about this and tell me, what was the first definition of productivity that you were exposed to? Might it be in school? Might it be in college? You know, a lot of things are taught to us within the comfort of four walls. And we get accustomed to that definition till the time we actually step out and realize that the real world functions quite differently. So, what was the definition of productivity that you were accustomed to till the time you stepped out in the real world? And how has quarantine actually evolved, or even quarantine? I think we can come that to it. We can come to it later. But even now, running your own business, and I think two businesses, how has the definition of productivity changed for you? So, starting from right at the beginning, and eventually how it evolved.
Okay, interesting question around productivity. I think productivity is not a term that we come across, or at least that we used to come across very often in school, right? It was more about, homework hua ki nahi type of a thing, right? So how much study, and how many things were you able to do in? So I think back in school and college, I mean, when we were growing up, I think productivity got defined as a concept of how many things can you cram in the time that you have, right? School studies, homework, and then beyond that, your extracurricular activities, as they call it, any other learning and development, all of that amounted to productivity, right? It's essentially what is the kind of output you can expect in a given time frame. And I think even going into work and all of that, I think the textbook definition of productivity, even at workplace, is typically that, right? What is your output in that much time, in the time that you spend at work, or the hours that you spend, doing something. I think what has happened, what has evolved, as in the journey of entrepreneurship, and setting up things and managing people and all that, I think, is that you start looking at productivity more about, I mean, it's not how much, but how well, right? How well you do things instead of how many things you manage to do. I think, as Stephen Covey had once written in I think one of his books, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities, right? And I think that, in an essence, is really something that we miss out a lot, because I know when I was running the Better India, and when I set up things, and we started hiring, and there was so much going on all the time, I was continuously stressed, because I would feel that there's so much that I haven't done, right? And I think that that definition of productivity is what really causes, I think it makes you a little bit inefficient in a lot of ways, because you don't tend to prioritize what's most important, and you just try to run, and you're in a rat race trying to finish as many things as you can. And what I've learned along the way is to really take a step back and learn to prioritize, learn to understand what is the most important thing that you need to focus on, and do that really well, and let others, the things, happen with time or later on. But a lot of times when we're trying to cram in as many things as we can, we tend to even miss out many important things, because we did not prioritize them right. So for me, productivity has changed in that way, where when we start with the most important things, you end up doing like 80% of what you want to do, right up, instead of trying to do 80% of the things you need to do, but end up achieving only 20% of what you really set out to do. With the lockdown and the pandemic, I think for us it's been back to working from home, something that we were very comfortable doing even 5 years ago when we started working on the Better India full time. It was completely work from home 7 years ago as well. I mean, I actually 12 years, since past 12 years, since we launched it. And for the first 7-8 years, it was completely work from home. Even when we started hiring, putting together a small team, it was, everybody was working from home. And people from that time who are still with us, they're still very comfortable going back working from home. We still have all the processes that we had set in place back then that enabled us to communicate well, to be able to track our progress and everything, so it's not really impacted our productivity. In fact, if anything, it has improved it, because we are saving so much time in commuting and all the other stressful activities we used to, and very unproductive activities that we used to take up on a daily basis. And the beautiful thing is, so many of our team members are back in their hometowns, living with their families, eating home cooked food and everything, and getting to work. And in that way, the pandemic has been highly productive. I think with the tools that we have at our disposal today, in today's generation, with the digital era, it's been quite seamless. In fact, it's just improved our productivity. So for us, I mean, we are looking at this long term. We don't intend to restart office anytime soon. And productivity has just been fantastic. I think productivity is also measured in how happy you are with what you're doing, with the time that you have, and what are you able to what else are you able to achieve just beyond work. And I think that's been a real revelation in this time.
Very well said, very profoundly put as well. I actually had a follow-up question when we were talking about output, and I just thought I'll get your views on that as well. Now, of course, not only you're part of a startup and you've been part of it since the right at the beginning of its journey, but also you're right at the helm, right? You're also steering the ship. You're ensuring that it sails smoothly and also eventually reaches, I would say, a proper destination, whatever that might be for subjectivity purpose. But I was very curious to know, so when we were all growing up, there was very limited scope of creativity or approaching a problem in a different way. There was only one methodology to a maths question. There was only one way to remember political science answers. And that also translated to when we went to college as well. The whole
Hmm.
concept of, especially I was in Delhi University, so even the whole concept of debating or just having discussions was very much opposite to rote learning, which was what was encouraged. So it was always about output, that the output is ki marks aane chahiye. Output is ki this should be done in this time. But when I think it comes to a leadership position, and I can understand that a little bit, though of course I'm just starting out. But I also feel the focus shifts a lot to input. Because if you're not able to invest, or I would say contribute and focus on your contribution per se, the output will not be something valuable or worthy, or also I would say you know match up to what the company and the team expects from you. Plus you're also in the leadership position, so your input becomes much more sacrosanct, because there are people looking at you and using that input as wisdom to build something further. So do you also feel that there is a massive shift from just focusing on output and eventually to input, especially keeping in mind that you're in a leadership role and there's a lot of a lot of not only a lot of expectations resting on you, but also a lot of hopes resting on you as well, because people are looking up to you for your sharing. You're the captain eventually. So what's your take on that?
I think you put it very well, Chhaya. The focus has definitely shifted from output to input. Like, inputs have become my output, right? In that way. So, uh, definitely, I mean, it's a huge mindset shift. When you're focused on, yeah, what are your performance numbers? What are your this thing, right? To actually being able to guide, mentor, set up processes for the long run. These are all that become measures of your productivity, right? In some ways they're more difficult to measure. They are more intangible, but at the same time, yes, those inputs become things that are going to help you in the long run. Building the right team, mentoring and guiding, all of these things, right? It just sets you up for the long run. And productivity, from just numbers, like how many hours or how many units or how many this thing are you putting out, to actually how aligned is your team, how well is your vision getting um, is getting transcribed into actual results. All of this really matters, I think. So it all adds up to productivity. And you're right, there's a lot more intangible aspects to productivity when you take on a more leadership role. as you're realizing as well.
Yeah. No, again, and I was just thinking on the lines of, if now I feel, of course, part of leading an organization and just part of also succeeding, and I know success is also very subjective, but also feeling that you're actually adding value to an entrepreneurial journey. I feel it somehow might rely a little bit more on the intangible aspects. How are you as a leader? Are you a good team player? Are you compassionate? Are you able to give everybody equal onus and responsibility and let them play their role? You don't take the credit on yourself. There are a lot of intangible things that as a leader, I think humility, for example, that you eventually learn on the job, I feel. And you learn that you will make mistakes. You're of course not God. You're not somebody who's already, I mean, even there's always something higher than Mount Everest, maybe just not discovered yet. There's always a lot of scope, and there's always scope of improvement as well. But I also feel that why aren't we taught these intangible things as much as we taught the tangible ones as well? If the focus would have been more on the intangible, or at least a balanced one, we might have had more leaders, we might have had more entrepreneurs, we might have had more team players. And we talk so much about made in India and so many things where we're trying to upskill, the youth as well. But we're still very much numbered, or those it was a predictable chart sort of oriented. Okay, this is the methodology and you have to follow it. If just wanted to get your take on that, because I feel that if I was taught a lot of things in school, something where today, as an example, a friend of mine, unfortunately, a car broke down somewhere close to her office, and I had to go pick her up, and then we had to call a mechanic, and then just realized I don't even know half the thing that go into the car. Like if he's asking me, he might just charge me exorbitantly, and these are life skills
Yes.
eventually, and we're not taught all these things. So
Yeah.
what would, I mean, better India, right? We're actually trying to bring out and also improve this way we function and the stories we find ourselves. So what's your take on this?
No, that's a very valid point you bring out about life skills, because I think that's one thing that we totally missed out in schools. Let's hope that the new educational policy is able to bridge those gaps. But vocational training, life skills training, understanding the basics. That you, whether it's fixing things in your house that break down, whether it's your car, whether just going out and getting even from an entrepreneurship perspective, right? We were never taught, like we had physics, maths, every other subject, but there was nothing that gave you a more holistic picture of what the world really looks like. Even managing your finances, for instance, is such a crucial skill that's needed, and it's just left to say finance graduates or whatever. Like all of us, we feel very helpless, even knowing the basics of managing our finances. So these are definitely skills that we all need to build. And I think what I love about one thing that we do at the Better India is really talk about a lot of such skills, like what we call tools and information that we put out, tools and resources that we put out, that enable people to become more aware of how to even from small things like gardening, right? How do you just grow your own vegetables on your own in your own balconies or terraces, to really understanding some of the laws that are applicable to us, becoming more aware citizens,
Hmm.
and knowing what our rights and duties are. All of these things play a very, very important role in shaping who we are, in shaping what kind of leaders and citizens we become. I think I think you've nailed it in that sense, that we really, really have to be more aware and more involved in everything that we do. These are skills that are usually not taught, but I mean, and currently we are all on our own trying to pick them all up. But having them right from a very early age, from our schools and colleges, would be super helpful.
And also maybe also creating more channels of shared knowledge. So for example, today I learned about what a fuel pump is and what the cost of it is generally. So
Yeah.
maybe also create more platforms of shared knowledge where if you have access to some skill, maybe it could be shared with somebody else as well, like a barter system for knowledge. But yeah, like continuing the conversation on productivity. So of course, bringing it to the lockdown now. So I know a lot of people have explored art and productivity, even in a personal space. I would say quite uniquely during these times. I have started painting, as I mentioned. I of course love to write, so that's also taken most of my time. And of course work continues, but you find your spaces. As you said, people are more comfortable in their homes, people have family around them, you're in your comfort zone, so you can also have those escapes. It might be in gardening, it might be in walking, it might be in cooking, it could be for anybody. So what have been the couple of few things that you have picked up during this lockdown, which you might have put a pin on that it will happen somewhere later, but you found some time for it, or you realize that you have to make time for it and there is literally no more excuses, or no more, I mean, I can't put it further away anymore. So what have been the art in quarantine for Anuradha?
I have a long list somewhere of all the missing things that I need to learn very soon. It's just that I think for us, it kind of doubled up. We launched the entire new business, so to speak, just a month before the lockdown hit. So, and then trying to, make everyone move to remote working and then manage with all the lockdowns and quarantines and all that. It became super hectic, and also making sure that our teams are able to manage well, with the entire situation, working from home, then getting to their hometowns and all of that stuff. So it was a really challenging, it was hectic in that sense. But yeah, I have a long list somewhere, and I've started dabbling with a few things at least. Like we have so many articles around urban gardening and growing your own food. That I finally had to start reading some of them. I mean, at least I had to start following, after just reading up. So it was just so inspiring, all of the people who are doing that. And I was like, yeah, I would love to. I've always wanted to do that. So I started, with less challenging, or with easier challenges, like maybe some greens and all that stuff. So I tried growing some spinach, and then I had a couple of pigeons entertain themselves in my balcony, and have a nice feast. But at least something grew out of my pots, so I was very happy about that. Also tried some more cooking. It's always been something I've enjoyed. So picked that up after a while. At least not going to office, not having to do that commute of almost 2 hours every day gave me more time to focus on some of the things that I love to do. And one thing I really enjoyed making was a mandala. I always used to look at people who
Yeah,
used to
and what is
make
supposed to be
lovely
very
mandalas.
therapeutic as well, that it really calms you down and also it teaches you a
Yeah,
lot of things as well: calmness,
absolutely.
endurance, focus. Yeah.
I love that, so I'm hoping to get more time in the future to do that. But at least I attended one workshop, and I did manage to make my own mandalas. I was super thrilled about that.
Well, I would
But
love
yeah,
to
so
see
many
some
things.
if you ever put them up on social media. Maybe have your own mandala community which you can start now.
I'm sure there are plenty of them. I would love to go explore sometime.
Yeah. So, but then what have been the few things that you've really missed? Of course, I mean, there are something which are common: meeting your friends, going out, just being able to meet your family, parents more regularly. Yes. So, but has there been something which is really sort of, I mean, just really stood out in terms of this is something to really miss? And the first thing that, when the lockdown and the proper COVID is out of a sight, the first thing that you're going to get back to, like I personally love cycling. And now only because it has opened up a little bit, so I have the chance to go and cycle, but just going for walks and swimming, and that's something which I miss a lot, and meeting my friends. What is something that you really, really miss because of how COVID has altered your life?
Um, yeah, I think I used to really enjoy reading outdoors. That's whether it's in a park or in an outdoor cafe. So that's something that has come to a halt, and more or less. I mean, totally been confined indoors. So yeah, that's something that I'm looking forward to resuming once the lockdown is lifted, and definitely meeting up with friends. It's been ages since I've met them. In fact, even meeting parents had come down drastically, and it's only recently that we started. I started meeting my parents again. We were just so scared of transmitting anything to them. So I think meeting friends and family, and just being outdoors more, maybe without a mask one day,
Ah.
sometime in the future would be really awesome.
Yeah, but it's also very fascinating how people find opportunities in crisis. Apparently, There are now $1 million masks also available, which are gold plated and stuff. Which I actually just keep waiting to remove the mask because I find it so suffocating, and I'm like,
Yeah, same here.
how do people have time to buy gold plated masks?
The
But
most while the sun, making hay while the sun shines.
yeah, exactly. So, just the last two questions, and I'll let you get on with your busy schedule after that. So, I wanted to know what are the five things that you have really held on to during this quarantine. So, these five, of course, would be one movie, and I'm talking from more of a comfort point because, like, I personally believe that it's very important to go back to your comfort points, especially when things really topple down or get very haywire and you're looking for some the anchor within the storm. So what has been that one movie that has always comforted you? Then what has been that one book that you always might pick up? It could be a comic book, it could be an article, it could be Supandi for that matter, whatever really comforts you. So one movie, one book, one song that really gets you going, really pumps up your spirits, or is something that you will always resort to, especially when you're looking for some just that non-caffeine rush. Then, of course, one food item that you're completely fond of, which you might have started cooking right now, or just have always wanted to be your comfort food. And of course, last, what is that one quote? It could again, you of course shared a very wonderful one a little while back, but it could also be something that somebody has said to you and really got stuck with you. So for me, the line is stories hold our cure. This was in Nanette, which is of course a stand-up act by Hannah Gadsby on Netflix. So she said this one line, the stories hold our cure. And that has just sort of become my motto now. So of course, movie, book, song, quote, and food. So you can name one item each.
Okay, that's a long list.
I can of course break it. Let's just start with the movie first. What has been that one movie that, or maybe a web series or a show that you've always gone back to, especially to have that comfortable comfort partner next to you?
Interestingly, I think it's more to do with nostalgia, but I recently discovered that Malgudi Days was available online again, right? And I watched it, with my son, and we had quite a rollicking time looking at Swami and his all of his blundering mistakes that he does. In addition to that, I also caught up with Charlie Chaplin and.
Wow. Very
The Star
classic
Wars
there. Very
series.
beautiful choices. I still remember the Malgudi Days ka tune. Ta na na na.
Yes.
That is
it's,
so
it's,
it is so comforting because it takes you back to a world where problems were less and people were much more happy, or at least nothing else.
it just seems so much simpler back then,
Yeah,
less
true.
complicated world. It seemed like, at least
Yeah.
back then to us. So I think that's why it was more of. I think there was so much nostalgia that I was able to just kind of catch up on. So that was to do with television and
What
movies.
about a book or something that you've read or you always go back to? It could also be something spiritual or whatever really comforts you, especially when the storm keeps brewing outside.
So, you know, uh, I haven't read it in a while, but one of the books that had a lasting impact on me was To Kill a Mockingbird
Mhm.
by Harper Lee. And this was, I read the first time I read it back in school. It left such a deep impact on me, maybe because I don't know, I just found the story really, really powerful. And I think what really struck me back then was um, the power of integrity, and again the power of the influence that one person can have, one person who's very, very strong in their ethics and stuff like that. So there is uh, the potential of one person to make a change, and I think that kind of left an impact with me that I carry till now. So I haven't read it in a while, but yeah, I think I would love to go back to that book and read it again.
No, definitely a classic. I mean, even I think I read it when I was in class 10th, if I'm not wrong, right before we became very focused on. We had the CCE system, so we didn't have boards, but we still had very rigorous examinations. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah, definitely a classic. Okay, next is a song that has always pumped you up, or it could also be the other way around. Like you're too stressed and you want something more mellow, or Jagdish Singh or anything. My father loves Jagdish Singh, and I've also become fond of a lot of his songs. So yeah, a song that gets you going. It could be either way.
I think I love, maybe because it's just a part of growing up. I just love a lot of songs by Coldplay. One of my favorites is Yellow. So I think that's
My
one
God.
of my go-to songs whenever I'm, I just in the mood to listen to something or, yeah.
Well, Coldplay again, I what I really like about the choices are they're so evergreen. And I mean, I can also say yes, I also these are my favorites as well. So I
Yeah.
really like how so evergreen are your choices. Okay, till the last two things. One is of course a comfort food, and one is the quote that is something which really anchors you.
Comfort food is, I think one of the biggest comfort foods is just, I think I love to go back to very simple stuff for comfort, right? So it's like dal chawal sort of thing. I think that's my, you know, favorite. It's also comfort from the sense of making.
Yeah,
It's so
true.
easy.
Even khichdi, I would say in that case, or maybe pulao. Even those two are very easy, plus very filling as well. And you won't believe, two other people whom I interviewed recently. Also, when I asked them what is their comfort food, they also mentioned khichdi or pulao or dal chawal. So I know there's a ease to make it as well,
Yeah,
but
yeah. I
also
think
they're
from
very filling
comfort
as
level.
well. Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Okay, the one quote that has really anchored you, and of course, you could still stick to the one that you shared a while ago, or it could be something different as well.
Uh, I think one quote that I've really come to love is the one by Margaret Mead, where she says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. It's the only, indeed, that it's the only thing that ever has."
Hmm.
And I think that is a mantra that I've followed, I've stood by, because I've seen that power. I've seen the power of people who are determined to make a change. It can be as small as one community of one, and but they just, with their determination and their perseverance, they do manage to make that change. So I totally believe that's possible, and I love that quote. In addition to that, I also love another one by Mahatma Gandhi, where he says, live as if you were to die tomorrow,
Yeah.
born as if you were to live for. I think that's such a beautiful quote. I think I love most quotes by Bapuji, but I think this is one that really I look at it as a beacon, because it encapsulates two beautiful concepts, so amazingly, right? Like living in the present, living life to the fullest, making the most of every moment that you have, and at the same time, never giving up on your learning, never I think, when the day you stop learning is the day you die, not the day you actually stop breathing. So I just love that quote as well.
No, very profound. And I don't know, I think I am trying to imbibe this very early in my age. So I still, again, as I said, just starting out with that, if I don't approach every day with, that I might learn something new today, it could be from anybody. It could be even if I just interacted with somebody for a couple of seconds. Even in that, if you're observant, you can learn so much.
So much.
And I think learning is a mark of a leader, because if a leader stops learning, what will they teach? So it's sort of like
Absolutely.
an input and output. It's where input and output sort of condense. But yeah, and I think it was such an interesting chat to just speak with you and learn about, and really espouse the whole idea behind Better India, because I can see that positivity and that just hope and that passion in you as well. And yeah, I just really want to thank you for taking out the time. I love our conversations, and I hope they increase in number as well. Of course, depending on how free we get. But yeah, thank you so much. And any last words or parting thought?
You didn't give me a chance to say thank you once.
Oh no, which is right.
So thank you so much, Chaya, for having me here. It's been a real pleasure. It's been great to see, everything from Baatein to Ibadat, growing and becoming more popular and scaling up. So it's beautiful. I think I've enjoyed this conversation as much as you did, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much, Anuradha.